Well, hello. Welcome back to the Inside Syracuse Basketball Podcast. I'm syracuse.com basketball reporter Mike Waters, and I'm sitting alongside, theoretically anyway, my colleague Donna Ditota. Donna, how are you?
Yes, here in the dungeon. It's going okay, Mike. How are you doing? This is normally not where I am. I'm normally at my house, so we will not be seeing Riley the Golden Retriever today, which is like the saddest part about this whole podcast right now.
Yes, and of course we have Sophie, our Shih Tzu.
Oh,
And
bring her up.
well, she's not leaving the side of my mother-in-law, who's here at the house today, and who
Okay.
Sophie adores. So,
No dogs
so
today.
yeah,
So
no
it's a
dogs today. Sorry,
dog-free
folks.
podcast.
Yep, all basketball. But that's okay because we got a lot of basketball to
We
talk
do.
about. It is so crazy. Of course, with the transfer portal these days, the end of the season doesn't mean the end of work for basketball writers. But
If
when you're
only,
covering
Mike.
a oh, but when but when you're covering a program that's just undergone a coaching change, it's heightened tenfold. So with Gerry McNamara coming in as the new head coach, we've got a new coaching staff, we've got a roster turnover. I would like to start today, if you don't mind, talking about the coaching staff that Gerry McNamara has put together
Sure.
so far. Two of the guys that we know are coming from his Siena staff, Arenze
Hmm.
Anawaku, former Syracuse center, and Ben
Right.
Lee. A lot of the Syracuse fans on here are familiar with Arenze. We'll get to him second. What you spent a lot of time with Siena towards the end of the season. What can you tell us about Ben Lee?
I think Ben Lee has been regarded as somebody who's a very bright young basketball mind. I think he was the guy who came up with the plan, the defensive plan for Duke. He's a guy who I think was very involved in recruiting and getting, I'm not even going to try to say this young man's name. Let's just say Mark Morano. I don't know his next name, the
I just go
Slovenian.
real quick. I act like I know what I'm talking about. I'm like
Sure,
Mamu
that sounds great.
Tovic,
That sounds awesome.
Tovic.
He's from the lovely
Uh,
country of Slovenia, where I've actually been to Lake Bled, which is beautiful. So
our resident
anyway,
Siena slash Slovenia reporter, Donna Ditota.
exactly. I would love to have a Slovenia headquarters. So yeah, so he was the guy. So I think he's a very, very valuable guy. I think it's really good that he's coming over with Jerry and he's young. I think he's 29 or 30, something like that. And he's very well regarded in the coaching world, from what I hear.
And Arenze is getting a lot of praise in like just the couple of years he spent with Jerry at Siena in his development of bigs. And in addition to his other duties that he's had there. And I remember going back to when Arenze was playing at Syracuse. He was always a very cerebral
Yep.
guy, knew the game, thought the game. So it doesn't surprise me that he's becoming a really good assistant coach at this level.
It's good to have a big man covering big men or a big woman covering big women or teaching big women because it's a completely different way to play. And I think that Orense it was a kind of an undersized guy. He's a big guy, but not super tall. So he had to figure out how to do some things to be successful. And he was a very good center at Syracuse. And I think it's great that there's a big man coach here. I really do.
I get it. I've always said, listen, people can, short people can coach bigs as well. I've seen, throughout the years that I always said, there's a lot of catchers in baseball who become pitching coaches. But I do understand how sometimes it could really help a young big to look eye to eye to an assistant coach who can sit there and say and go out on the floor and say, this is the footwork I want you to do, and this is the move, and I know how to work with it. I mean, heck, Roosevelt Bowie at SU's fantasy camp 10 years ago turned me into an incredible low post player.
Wow, that's feat. That's something right there. Well, short basketball coaches in general. Like I am always astonished to see these smaller men on the sidelines coaching basketball.
Mick Cronin, Pat Kelsey, former BC coach Earl
Real
Grant.
grand, yeah.
Sure, there's a slew of them. Two new additions to Jerry's staff that come from outside the Syracuse family. Jamal Brunt comes from Penn State, where he's been coaching under Mike Rhodes there. He previously was with Mike Rhodes at Virginia Commonwealth.
Yep,
Comes in, I mean, he's got the reputation of being a defensive guru, right?
right. I think he also coached the offensive side of the ball when he was coaching for Jim Larinaga in Miami. So I think he's got both of them covered. He's the most experienced of the assistants. thus far. And I think that's, it's good to have a bunch of different outlooks from a different guys who have been at different programs who might think differently than Gerry might think, or that Orenze might think, or that Ben Lee might think. It's good to have different opinions. I think it's good to have a wealth of experience in different areas.
And along those lines, Ryan Daly has been officially announced as another assistant. He comes from Virginia Commonwealth, not from the same coaching lineage as Jamal Brunt. He was down there working for Phil Martelli Jr., and he previously worked for Martelli Jr. at Bryant.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Phil Martelli Jr. thought enough of him to keep him and bring him with him to VCU. And he's younger and
He's young.
has a reputation of, he's kind of like an offensive side of the ball guy.
He is, yeah. I mean, again, I just like the mix of guys that he's gotten here, and I think it's going to be it's an interesting staff. We'll see what happens, but I mean, it's always time to April and May is the time to be optimistic, Mike. So,
Sure.
so I think the staff looks so far. I think the staff looks great. I think he's only going to fill one more assistant coaching job. I think there's going to be other couple positions that he's got to announce, but I think we're well, into this whole coaching system and coaching tree that he's building here.
We should note that Pete Corsiniti, who's been on the Syracuse staff for years, first as the director of basketball operations, and then he got the assistant coaching title in recent years. He's staying. Gerry
He's
knows
staying
him
in a
well.
different,
There's a familiarity there, but he's on staff.
yeah, he's in a different role. He's gonna move into the athletic department. I think he told me he was gonna be the director of basketball operations and an assistant or associate athletic director. So he's got a different title, but he's staying with the basketball program.
Which I think is good. A little stability,
Yeah,
familiarity,
exactly.
and he knows how the inner workings of that office
Right.
need to be handled. Some of those duties. So I think he's going to be a real asset to Gerry McNamara as he embarks on his career here at Syracuse. Okay, coaching staff, we're good there for now. But before we move on completely, general manager. Do you
Yeah.
think Jerry's going to have a GM in the
He says he
traditional
is.
sense? Yeah.
He said he will have a GM. I mean, I don't know that it's kind of hard to get somebody that quickly, right? To you got to vet a bunch of people, and I think from what been told, he's talked to a couple of people. I don't. The portal moves so fast at this point. Like at this point, I'm sure he trusts the people he has around him. He has Ben around him, and he's got Orenze. He's got a bunch of people around him that he's known. And then he's got a couple of other guys who probably have other kind of contacts too. So maybe initially he's not going to have a GM like through the transfer portal phase, but he did say, he's told us that he wants to hire a GM. So at some point, that hire will be made too.
I think we'll see that at some point. It'll be interesting to see in what direction he goes with that. The
Yeah.
roster putting together, all of a sudden in just a few days, they've got 5 guys, right? Is it 5? Are we up to 5?
I think they have 5
confirmed?
guys.
Yeah, up to
Yeah.
5 confirmed. Let's start with the
Yeah.
2 holdovers. Syracuse, 2 guys off of last year's Syracuse roster are going to return and play for the Orange next year. Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White. Kyan Anthony, I think we all thought all along
Yeah.
because of Carmelo's connection, Gerry
Yep.
McNamara, his teammates.
And just because, this is where he's going to get the biggest bang for his buck, right? He's the son of a hero here in Syracuse, and this is where he's going to get, he's going to make his most money, and he's going to become the most recognizable. And so I think this is the place was going to be.
Yep, makes sense. Looking ahead to next year, Kyan, I think this is an important offseason from him. For him.
Agreed.
He's got to get stronger.
Yep.
He's really got to work on his shooting, right? I mean, 25%, I think, from three-point range last year. And after really struggling at the free throw line early in the season, he finally got his percentage up above 60 by the end of the year. But honestly, that's not good enough for a shooting guard or a wing. You got to shoot better than that. And
Yeah, that's not good enough for anybody, really. I mean, you don't want to shoot 50% from the free throw line,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his shooting has to get better. He has to get stronger. He has to make an effort to defend better. And I think that's one thing that Jerry's going to really demand of him this year. If he doesn't guard anybody, it's going to be hard for, I think, Gerry to put him on the court and play him, right? I mean, Gerry is a guy who wants guys to give 100% effort, he wants guys to guard people. That's how he built his team at Siena. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that Cayenne is going to have to buckle down and get better at during the season. I mean, and you can get better at defense. I mean, you can understand angles better, and you can understand how to get to places better. You don't have to be the strongest or the fastest or the quickest or any of that. You just have to understand the game and where you need to be and make an effort to be there. And I think that's one of the things that he's going to have to really improve the most, because I think freshmen, generally speaking, don't shoot it all that well. It's rare that a freshman has a really good shooting year. So, I mean, I think he will improve in that area, but I think it's the defensive side of the ball where he really has to make big strides for next season.
I agree. And I think, again, I can see him making some strides on defense. If, for one, if that's the mantra of the team, if that's
Yeah,
your coach's emphasis, and everyone's buying in here,
right.
you can't be like, in that case, you can't be like the one guy not playing great defense and stuff. It's like, if this is the whole thing, if this is the way practices are run, and we'll see. But you're right. Watching Gerry McNamara's teams at Siena, the good defensive players were on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, in his programs, you have to guard, and I think that will be a message that will be imparted to Cayenne. And again, I think he's capable. I mean, he's capable of playing defense. It's just a matter of effort, a matter of wanting to do it.
Lost you a little bit on sound there. I could hear you barely, but boy, it's like your mic is fading on me.
Really? The mic looks good though.
Okay, now we're back.
Okay.
Yeah. A little tricky
What did
down
you?
there in the dungeon at
It's
syracuse.com.
a little tricky down here. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
All right, now you're great, though. All right, that brings us to Sadiq White.
Yeah,
Talking about defense, I think he's got to learn more on how to play defense. But
right.
from what I saw of him as a freshman, very willing defender. I mean, this guy wants to play defense, and he's got the athleticism and the length and the quickness to do it.
He does, and he's by the end of the season he stopped fouling people, which was important too in terms of his development. Like he'd foul, get in the game. And again, if you're coming off the bench, it's okay to foul here and there, but you can't foul out in 8 minutes or whatever it was. But he got better as the season went on, and I think. One of the quotes that I think we're all going to remember about Adrian Autry when you know exactly what I'm going to say.
Yes.
When Sadiq was guarding, he was guarding somebody, and somebody asked him in the
Quadir
post game, like, "Well,
Copeland.
why didn't he come out?" And he said, "Because he was the only one who was trying." And I think that was an interesting comment about him and about the team at that point. And I think he does want to play defense. He's told me he really enjoys playing defense. And I think the thing about him, though, I think he was better offensively than I thought he would be. I mean, toward the end of the year, he was scoring the ball. He made a couple of threes. I mean, he didn't take a lot of them, but he made a few
No.
of them. I think he shot around 35%, something like that, again, on very limited attempts. But I think his offense was better than I thought it would be this year. And I think that's just a place to build on for next season.
Yep, and another guy who, if he is able to start, take a starting role next year, he's going to get more minutes. He's got to improve at the free throw line. He was a
Oh, yeah.
51% shooter last year. So, I know Syracuse fans don't want to see a repeat of last year's free throw shooting as a team. That was
Well,
hard
I
to
think
watch.
that's one thing that Jerry too wants his team. I mean, he wants his team to be able to shoot free throws. And again, I think it's part of its personality. I mean, I think if you're a bad free throw shooter, I hate to say it, you're a bad free throw shooter. I mean, you can get incrementally better, but you're not going to go from like 55% to 95%. You can go from 55% to 70%, which would be good.
That would be great.
But it's hard to go from being a bad free throw shooter to a really, really good free throw shooter. I mean, generally speaking, if you're a really good free throw shooter, you're a really good free throw shooter, you know?
You want to talk about really good free throw shooters? You know who's a really good free throw shooter, Donna? Gavin Doty.
Oh yeah, Gavin Doty's a very good free throw shooter.
86
Yep.
something percent from the free
Yep.
throw line. And that's like the last, when people talk about Gavin Doty, they talk about his IQ for the game. Gerry
Yeah.
McNamara talks about his mid-range game, that turnaround jumper. I think Jerry's quote about that is, "It's just stupid." He scored the ball. He rebounds for a guy his size.
He was astonishing. As an astonishing rebounder. I mean, I think he's listed as 6'5". I don't think he's that 6'5",
Yeah,
but he is unbelievable on the boards. I mean, and again, and part of it with Gavin is just he's in such great shape, and he's constantly moving during the game, so he gets himself into position to get rebounds. And the thing that's the greatest thing about Gavin Doty is how hard he plays, how hard he tries, how much heart he has in the game. And I think his skills have improved too. He shot the ball better this year. And he's a great free throw shooter, so you would imagine that his shooting would come along. He didn't
right.
shoot a great his freshman year, but you would imagine his shooting would come along, and I think it did come along a little bit this year. So next year maybe he makes a bump up from 33% to 35%, which is good.
It'd be okay.
So the thing
Yeah.
about Gavin Doty is, I mean, I've seen him play a lot. Everybody's going to love his hustle. He just plays so hard. on both ends of the floor, and that's what's going to endear him, I think, to Syracuse fans.
And God, he could just become a hometown favorite because he's just from
Yeah,
right up the road in Fulton,
he
New
is.
York, about 25 miles, 26 miles away from the Dome. I mapped it out
Yep,
there.
grew up as a Syracuse fan. Yep.
Real quick, just around it, we mentioned the Slovenian kid earlier, Mark Morano
Yeah.
Mamikovic. We got to call him something. Either Mamu and just be done with it. Moo, I hope.
I'm going to call him Mark. That's what I'm going to call
Okay.
him.
All
Yeah.
right. And now, who is it? Oh, the Australian kid, the center, 6'10" kid from Siena,
Yep.
Tasman Goodrick. He only played in 9 games, then he had an
Right.
injury, but in those 9 games, he was putting up decent numbers, like 9.5 rebounds. 9.5 points, about 7 rebounds a game. Interesting story though. He comes over from Australia, goes to Cal Baptist, which is a D1
Yeah.
school. Doesn't play much, doesn't do much there.
Right.
Goes Division II Gannon, down in Pennsylvania.
Kills it.
Kills it.
Yep.
Jerry finds him, brings him to Siena, and I think Jerry thought he had an all Metro Atlantic Conference player, and he said as much. And then the kid
Yeah.
gets injured. It'll be interesting to see him now try to make the jump to a high major level. But he's solid, 6'10", 230, and I'm thinking to myself, if nothing else, I think they've improved at backup center because he's got to be better than Akir Soare.
Yeah, I think you're right at that. And I think the thing that Jerry loves about him most is he's a really good rebounder. And rebounders are valuable people. And, it will be interesting to see, like, people keep asking me, like, why is he getting all these guys from Siena? These are all low major, mid major guys. And I'm like, you got to have 15 guys on your roster. I mean, you got to have backups. You got to have play people to play. And so everybody is important. Everybody that you get on your team. And I think one of the big things with Jerry is he is culture. He wants guys who buy in. He knows all these guys. He knows the attitude that they brought to games and practices last year. And I think he wants to impart that to the new team that he is now going to be coaching at Syracuse.
And I think bringing a limited number of guys that understand your culture already, they know what you want, they know what you expect. I think that's going to help build culture faster
Agreed.
with the new
Yep.
guys that come in. All right,
Agreed.
as we look at what they have, and I think it's easy to see what they need.
Yeah.
I think they got a glaring need at point, and
Yes.
I think they got to be looking at a starting center, someone I know
Yes.
Tasman Goodrick is sitting there, but it's the point and the five, right?
Yeah, I mean, and those are not coincidentally the two most expensive players in the portal. Those are the big guys, especially, are extremely expensive, and the point guards are too. I mean, we haven't talked about Ryan Mesh, who I
Yep.
assume is coming to Syracuse. I think he's coming to Syracuse.
Check your
I think
phone.
that
Has he called you yet?
not yet. So I think that's going to happen. Could happen this week. Um, so they will have a point guard at that point. And I know Jerry loves him. He's a fun guy to watch. Like, you will enjoy watching Ryan Mesh if he ends up coming to Syracuse. They need a point guard, and they desperately need a big man. They need a big man, and I like a big guy. Like, they need a
Yeah.
guy who's like 6'11", 250, right? Or 240. I mean, I know Jerry
All
likes
right.
skilled guys too at the center spot, but those guys are super expensive.
I
So
got a
sometimes
couple
you have to
names for
settle a
you.
little bit. Sorry?
I got a couple names for you.
Oh, sure. Throw out some names,
Just
Mike.
bounce them on. 6'11", 240. Not too far off what you just said.
No, I like the 6'11", 240.
J.P. Estrella of Tennessee. He's been down there for
J.
2
Estrella is
years.
going to be extremely expensive.
I know.
Is a starter on an SEC team, and that guy is going to cost a lot of money. Now, I mean, and I think there's going to be a lot of pursuers for JP Estrella. Obviously,
Of
Syracuse
course.
was in on him a few years ago, really wanted him. He ended up going to Tennessee. He's from Maine, I think, right? Isn't he from
He is
Cougar
from
Flag
Maine.
territory? Yeah.
Yep, he's a Maine kid. He came here. He was on it. He took an official visit to Syracuse. In fact, the visit came up in my recent podcast with Joe Girard. Joe remembered JP's visit because JP likes to golf, and they knew it. And they took him golfing at Drumlin's, and Joe Girard was on that little golfing excursion. He was, how they always have a current player trying to
Yeah.
be in there too.
I think
Yeah,
Joe's a pretty
Joe. I'm sorry,
I think Joe's a pretty good golfer too.
he's not too bad. Yes. Yeah, we brought up golf. We talked about golf and Gerry McNamara. Joe and I did on that podcast. So, but yeah, JP Estrella, yes, he's going to have a lot of pursuers, and he could command big money, but you never know. There is a past history there between GMAC and
Yeah.
JP.
I'm not saying it's
All right.
impossible. I'm just saying it's going to be expensive.
Two other fairly big guys that Syracuse has a past with. Drew Fielder of Boise State, but Syracuse fans might remember him for his 2 years at Georgetown. 6'11", 225. Last year at Boise State, 14 and a half points, 6 rebounds a game, and get this, 41% from three-point range. And it
Yeah.
wasn't a limited number. It was 38 of 93.
Yeah.
I know he's at
I
Boise
mean,
State, and he's from Idaho. It
right.
might be hard to get an Idaho kid to come east twice in his career, but I love the
You never
idea.
know.
Yeah. Matt Gilhool, Philadelphia area kid. Syracuse recruited him. They showed interest. I don't think Gerry was on the staff that was recruiting him. I think maybe he had gone to Siena by then. He did not play at LSU last year. He redshirted. So
He didn't, it wasn't a medical red shirt, right? It was just a red shirt.
I think it was just a red shirt.
Yeah.
And he's more of a, coming out of high school, he was 6'9", 200, and kind of seen more as a 4. On LSU's website, he's listed at 6'11", 213. So I don't know if he's become a power forward with really good size, or if he's developing a center's body. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. 213 is pretty,
It's a little slender
skinny.
for center in the
Yeah.
ACC, but still intriguing guys. We don't know. Point guard,
We have no
man,
idea.
it's just so hard to know. There's so many names out there. One name
And
in
it's
the
early, it's
portal.
relatively early in the process too. I mean, um, yeah, it's relatively early. I know Syracuse has already gotten a few guys, but it's early. I mean, we're in week day, what, 4 of the portal being open, I
Is
think.
it 4, 3?
I think it started to open up. It
Tuesday,
opened up
Wednesday,
at
Thursday,
midnight on
Tuesday night or Monday
Tuesday.
late, yeah.
So it's day 3. I'm losing track of time in my mind all at the same
Well,
time.
that's what happens in the dungeon.
That's what happens in the dungeon. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
A couple intriguing names. Want to get your thoughts on them, though. For one, Jalen Cox,
Man, I love
former
Jalen
Colgate
Cox.
player. I think he made a little bit of a mistake. He transferred to Gonzaga, and
Oh, we're
then
talking about Braden Smith or Jalen Cox?
oh God, I got the wrong guy. Yeah, I'm talking the
Braden
wrong guy.
Smith's the guy who
Jalen
went.
Cox. Yeah, I got the wrong fella.
Okay.
Let's talk about Jalen Cox. Put me on the
Yeah,
right path because you saw him more than I did at Colgate.
I saw him a lot. Love him.
You said he's fast. He's
He's
fast.
incredibly quick, incredibly speedy. I feel bad that Matt Lango's going to probably may lose him
Like he did
because he really
Rayans.
developed at Colgate, and he's just the nicest young man. He's great with the ball in his hands. He can get to the rim. He handles it really well. And I think he came in as a 2 guard really because I think he played alongside Braden Smith for a little bit when Braden Smith was the point guard there. So I think he's a little bit of kind of a combo guard. He's a slender guy, kind of guy. He guards people. I love a lot of things about Jalen Cox.
Here's an interesting name that's in the portal. I have nothing to base it. I don't know if Syracuse has even made a phone call, but still, Terrence Hill, point guard from Virginia Commonwealth. He was a sophomore last year. 15 points per game, 37% from three-point range. Played at VCU.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
of Syracuse's new assistants, Ryan Daly, was at VCU last year. He at
The
least has
interesting
the
thing, like
kid's
there was
phone
a
number, right?
the interesting thing there was a list that he put out or somebody put one of his agents put out or something, and Syracuse wasn't on that list. So I don't know at this point where he's thinking or where he's not thinking, or I don't have any idea. I don't know him at all. I haven't seen him play at all, so I have
Yeah.
nothing to base my opinion about him on him. Except for I think VCU is a really good program. They've been a great program for a long time. As somebody who went to St. Bonaventure and watches the Bonnies a lot, they're always good.
We accidentally or coincidentally saw a kid that's out there now. Is Caden Mingo from Penn State, and again, Syracuse just got an assistant coach from Penn
Right.
State. We saw him in the game that preceded Syracuse versus Drexel in Philadelphia
Yeah.
last year.
I can't say I remember anything about the game, so.
Oh, I remember watching him because I knew he was a teammate of Cayenne's in high school. They played at Long Island Lutheran,
Yeah.
so I knew. Like I remember when Caden went over and said hi to Mello, and
Oh, I do remember that. I do remember
yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a good year as a freshman at Penn State. He was okay. He didn't shoot it great from 3-point range, six foot
Yeah. That's
three.
the tough thing about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
again, a
the
lot of
kick,
freshmen don't shoot it great.
yeah.
So,
And the kicker is he's got a younger brother named Dylan, who's a top 10 prospect in this year's recruiting class. He's committed to North Carolina.
Great.
North Carolina just went through a coaching change. I don't know if he'll stick to that commitment and play for Michael Malone in North Carolina, or if he might hit the market as well. But that would be really interesting. I mean, to have brothers playing together at Syracuse, Jimmy and Buddy.
I do think that, what do you think about your boys in North Carolina? So they've got a football coach and a basketball coach who are, let's just say, interesting choices.
I like the basketball hire a whole lot more than I like the football hire.
Yeah.
Because Michael Malone, I know, is a good coach, and it's he's not like Bill Belichick, into his 70s, out of the game and stuff like that. And Michael Malone has roots in the college game as well. He's been
Yeah.
an assistant coach at a few college places. In fact, did you know he was an assistant under Bobby Gonzalez at Manhattan?
I did, excuse me, I did not.
Isn't that
But
incredible?
yeah, but also his dad
For
was
those
a
who
coach
don't know, Bobby
here.
Gonzalez is a New York City legend. He's coached at a lot
Yes,
of different places. In fact, he was an assistant coach on Adrian Autry's high school team at St. Nicholas
that's
at
right.
one time.
I've
That's
been
how
in
far
a
Donna and
van
I
driving through
go
to
back to
Brooklyn with Bobby
Gonzo.
Gonzalez. Um,
Also,
yeah, and
Michael
well,
Malone
his
has
dad
he's a
obviously was an assistant here. Yeah, his dad Brendan
right.
was an assistant here. So
Brendan Malone.
yeah,
Michael Malone's coached 500 over 500 games in the NBA. I read the other day. I'm like, he's got plenty of coaching experience.
he
There might
does.
be some kids out there who are like, I wouldn't mind playing for a coach that like Henry Visar has to decide whether he's going to stay or hit the portal again, right? The North Carolina center.
Yeah,
If you're him, don't you want to play with the guy who helped Jokic in
you
Denver?
think? Yeah,
Right? All right.
but we'll see. I
Oh,
mean,
speaking of bigs, I forgot one guy on my list, and this one's got a little bit of like some credibility to just instead of just throwing a name out there. Riley Allen Spotch, six
yeah, he
eleven
was.
kid at George
Yeah,
Mason.
yep.
Syracuse, of course, I forget who reported it, but Syracuse was on a list of schools that apparently reached out. He's going to trim this list to three soon and maybe take visits,
Yes,
but
I think by this Friday, maybe by tomorrow.
yeah. A
We'll
school to
see.
watch though, Clemson. His uncle played at Clemson back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I think. So,
Right,
maybe
Brownell likes those
Clemson's,
big guys.
yes, he does. And he's got need for bigs because I think he was
Yep,
losing one of his two bigs, and one of his bigs, Carter Wellings,
in the
tore his
portal.
ACL right near the end of the season.
Is he not in the portal too? No, maybe not.
The other kid, Waleem,
It's
what
hard
was
to
his
keep
first
track.
name? Yeah, it is. One's in the portal. I think the other one had the torn ACL, so we don't know if he'll be ready by the start of the season. So Clemson's certainly
Right.
looking, but I just wanted to throw that name out there so our listeners, can maybe make a little note of it and something, and we'll see if Syracuse makes the cut down here soon. I don't
You
know.
know, the thing about this is that everything happens so quickly. Like the stuff that we're talking about right now, 10 minutes from now could be completely obsolete. I mean, the way these things are moving and the way, players are committing and getting into the portal and, erasing teams from contention. I mean, it just happens so fast
Yeah.
that these conversations that we're having, while I'm sure are riveting for our, for our listeners,
Well, we try to
uh,
help, right?
are, you just, it could be obsolete in 10 minutes. That's how fast things happen here.
Yeah. And listen, a school's interest in a player could be real until they sit down with an agent and the agent says, "Yeah, this is our asking price," and then that conversation could end right there and that, then and there, and that you got to move on. Who knows?
And I think too, a lot of these times, like you'll see a guy and he'll have like, here's the 15 or 20 schools who have reached out, right? And a lot of that
Hmm.
is you reach out and they say, here's how much that we're asking, and the schools say, okay, thanks, but no thanks, out of our budget,
Yes.
or we're not budgeting that for that for that position. So a lot of the massive lists, I think, are just people who have reached out, could mean a whole bunch of different things.
Exactly. Just looking to see if there might be interest or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and of course the agents then that want to put that list out and they call up a friendly reporter, they're still going to include all those big name and any schools they can on that
Yeah.
list because again that can drive up the price for them. So which is what they're all looking for. All right, Donna. Listen, this has been interesting. We got to get this up to YouTube and iTunes and
Mm.
Spotify and everything as fast before it, like you said, becomes obsolete.
Yeah.
Say hi to Riley for us all when you get home. We're not going to see
I know.
Riley the
It's very
Golden
sad not to see
Shay.
the Rygar here on our
It, it,
podcast.
It's probably our worst podcast in like well over a month and a half because
I
there's no
know.
Riley. But
Yeah.
all right. Again, folks, we thank you so much for listening. We will have more podcasts soon as news happens. But for now, that's Donna Ditota. I'm Mike Waters. We'll talk to you next time here again on the Inside Syracuse Basketball Podcast.